Hey, this whole week we're talking about being a missionary, and part of our point in our identity series is that being a missionary is more than something I do, it's who I am. When that takes place, it's because I've become spiritually responsive. And so this week's message was about being spiritually responsive. I gave you 4 P's to cultivate a higher level of responsiveness. You know that whenever you're talking with someone and they're non-responsive, what happens to the relationship? Well, it's hindered, if not sabotaged altogether. We have to be responsive in a marriage, in a family, in a church, and certainly with our walk with God. Behind me are some of my wife's beautiful plants in our garden. I'm the muscle in the garden. I move stuff, build stuff, hang stuff, create stuff, and she plants and nurtures the stuff. And there's a ton of plants that she nurtured literally from seed. It reminds me of one of my favorite spiritually responsive passages of Scripture. Deep in the Old Testament, Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 7 and 8, tells us what it looks like to be spiritually responsive. Blessed is the man or person who trusts in the Lord, whose confidence is in Him. He will be like a tree planted by the water that sends out its roots by the stream. It does not fear when heat comes. Its leaves are always green. It has no worries in a year of drought and never fails to bear fruit. I love that. I love that because it sounds like our garden. I love that because it sounds like what Jesus said to the disciples in John 15:5. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and my words remain in you, ask whatever you want and it will be given to you that you may bear much fruit. When Paul tells us in Galatians chapter 5 that the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control, he's saying this is what happens whenever we are like that tree and we're absorbing, we're soaking up the rich presence of God. We're like a tree planted by water. We're like plants in a garden that gets plenty of water, plenty of nourishment. I said that you and I are like a sponge. Literally, our brain is like a sponge. And this sponge currently is dry and hard, has nothing to offer. But if I dip it into a pail of water, it's not long before this sponge is supple, is rich, and literally is full of things to offer. And when I squeeze it, I get water. I get water. I get water. I get water. When life squeezes you, something comes out. When your spirits are responsive, what comes out is the fruit of the Spirit. Love, joy, peace. Go down the list. In this season, can you recognize? Can you just do a little assessment and say, there's some stuff coming out of me that's not the fruit of the Spirit? It's probably, if not the fruit of the Spirit, what Galatians calls the acts of the flesh. The acts of the flesh are things that are contrary to God, contrary to the life-giving presence of Jesus. When I am with Him and soaking up, absorbing who He is, I'm like a sponge. And when I'm not with Him, absorbing something else, I'm also like a sponge. What are you soaking up these days? Quick little tour of the garden. This is spaghetti squash. It's a gorgeous little plant that literally has trellised up. Now, when I think of spiritual disciplines are like this trellis. They enable us to grow, burgeon, and bear much fruit. The more I do spiritual disciplines, the more I can trellis. We've got wonderful watermelon coming on here. Oh, there's a dandy one. Nice. Look over here with me. Look at the spaghetti squash just hanging on that vine. We got cucumbers on this vine. We got another watermelon hanging there. We got gourds coming up this vine. Beautiful over here. More. We must like spaghetti squash. And the tomatoes, I love these little guys here. Oh my goodness. These guys like here, they're They're almost like candy. They're beautiful. More squash and zucchini through here, all around. Tomatoes, more squash, zucchini. I hope you're bearing fruit. There's no doubt if you are absorbing and soaking up who Jesus is, then you are bearing fruit. Today, spend some time with him. Ask him to fill your heart with the richness of his presence. Spend some time meditating on the words of Christ, on the words of Scripture. Let it come in and purify afresh your mind and your heart, your attitude, and watch the good things that grow in your life. I'll see you tomorrow.